So let me show you the next pattern that we're going to work together. It's an insertion pattern. So if we ignored the top bit and the bottom bit, you would think this is a bookmark, just like all the others that you've been working so far. But actually, we're going to work this a very different way. Okay, so we are not going to work from top to bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to work up the side, turn round, join in the centre and work back. So this pattern has a number of things that we've not done before. We've not had to do any joining in any of the patterns that we've done, and that's been deliberate because you need to have got yourself up a bit of skill level before you really look at doing a complete piece of lace in a round in any way. You've also got your speed up a bit, hopefully. You'll also notice that this has got a piece of ribbon in the centre. It's only a 3mm piece of ribbon. That's partly to add interest to the lace, but also to cover up the joining bit a bit. Doesn't quite match the stitches that are on either side of it. So when we're doing a piece like this where we're going to work around it, we will have pinholes that we will just loop around the first time and that we will join into or sew into. And when I say sew, that means something very specific in lace making. It's not taking a needle and doing a sewing. It does mean something else. Now, because we're going to come down and go round, what it makes sense to do is to start near the top so that the inner side, we don't change where we are. We could actually have started anywhere in this pattern that was the start of a fan. The reason that I say start with a fan is because we have to get rid of our pairs in one way or another, and sewing them into ground isn't the easiest way to do it. It's much easier if there's a way to sew them into cloth. When you look at this on the right side, you won't be able to see where that join is. I'm just going to turn this over, and when I turn it over, I know where the join is because I know what I'm looking for. There's some little bumps there and there's some knots where I've sewn out. But when you look at the lace itself, let me zoom in just for a minute. So that's as close as I can go. So the join is on this side. Actually, from the front of my lace, it doesn't look any different. And that's really what you want. You want the join to be as invisible as you can get that join to be. So this is the starting working diagram for our piece of lace. First thing to say is that the fan has been drawn in black lines. That doesn't represent a stitch. The reason it's in black lines is because you can decide how you want to work your fan. I've worked mine in cloth stitch. I've had actually put 2 passives in, so an extra passive on the outside and put a twist between them. And actually, that's my darker colour. My passives were actually a variegated much lighter pink colour. So the choice is up to you. So we do need to look at how we start this pattern because it is going to start very different to the patterns that we've started previously. There is no half stitch to sew into. We want, sorry, not to sew into, but to start off our piece with. And half stitch itself, a diagonal row of that isn't the easiest thing to hide your join in. So we are starting with this fan. And what we'll do is we'll actually use some of the pinholes that are above it where the actual pairs ultimately in a piece of lace as they were flowing through once we've turned a corner would normally come from. So we're going to do use most of these pins along here. At this starting pin, there are a number of different ways that I could start it, but the easiest way to hide the join or make it as invisible as possible is actually to work it and set it up as if it was a normal point. So in a normal repeat, at the end, we would then do a cloth and twist back and start our weaving again. So if actually we start those off two separates, effectively either side of the pin, but in reality they'll be on that pin, then that will give us the best effect. Now there are two ways of joining, two main ways of joining in torchon lace. You can either sew, although it's not with a needle, into the holes, or a more modern way, particularly for those difficult holes sometimes that are difficult to get into, is something that's called magic threads. So what we're going to do in this pattern is do a mixture of magic threads and sewing, so that you'll get in this pattern the opportunity to do both. I will demonstrate both, and I will also demonstrate some of the different tools that I use to do those sewings and why I do. Just to point out on the pricking that will come with this pattern, I've removed them from this section so I could draw on them, draw the working lines on it. But some of them have this square around. That is my marking. It is not an official marking. That is just to mark the pins where I'm going to loop around the pin and I ultimately sew into that, join into that. So you'll see that the ground is basically a half stitch ground, but you'll see that along this column of pins, all I've done is taken the pair around that pin. So I've pinned to the left of the two pairs. There will be extra twists, but I've not put those on the working diagram. You could, if you wanted to, do different ground stitches, but for now it's probably easier just to stick with what I've done here. You could do half, sorry, I've done half, pin, half. You could do cloth stitch and twist, pin, cloth stitch and twist, which you know gives a very different diagonal. There is a way of doing a join where you can get the stitches and at the join to look much closer to the normal working, but that's a more advanced technique. So for now we're just going to do this looping, and you will find lots of lace makers that's all they do. They haven't found the other way of doing those joins, but that's part of the reason for putting a ribbon in. You see the ribbon and not the slightly out join, which isn't even. Let me take you to the pillow. So on this piece, because the working diagram is so simple, I'm not going to show the working diagram. So the first thing that we need to do is to set up two pairs on this pin, but we're going to set them up one at a time. What we're going to do is we're now going to set up a magic thread, and a magic thread is simply a loop of thread. So a loop of thread, and what we're going to do with the loop on the right, we're going to put that under the bobbin. Okay, so we're wrapped around the thread, but the loop is on the underneath side. We're then going to put that to the back of the pillow. Now the threads that you need, you don't need hugely long threads, but I've left mine so that hopefully I don't pull them out at all in the work. And that's another reason why I'm doing two different types. So second one on that pin, and I'm going to put both of these on magic threads because they're a bit harder to sew into. So your first experience of joining, I want to be a pleasant one. So again, a loop under one bobbin and to the back of the pillow. Okay, so that's our worker on our outside passive, and we now need one more passive. So the pins I'm going to use for my temporary pins aren't going to be up over the work this time. They're actually going to be in the work, but above where we need. So the first point at which we're going to need one is that little extra pin that appeared in the corner, which I will talk to you about when we do the turning fan at the end. So I'm going to again use a magic thread. So it's gone under, the loop's to the right, or rather the loop will be underneath rather than on top. So you can already see there's quite a lot to get caught up in there. And that's one reason why normally I don't use magic threads other than on the odd pinhole. Right, so next one. I'm going to hang one of my passive pairs on there. Okay, so I've put them where they will actually come from. So let me see. I'm not going to do a magic thread on that one. The next one I am. So again, a length of thread with a loop, pass that loop under the right hand bobbin, put the loop to the back of the pillow. You don't need to pin these down or anything like that. So you can see I've started to do every other pin hole. So next one to continue that pattern. So the next one that I'm going to hang in, I will put in a magic thread, exactly the same as the others. The reason for putting the loop on the right or underneath is because that is then going to mirror exactly what I'm going to do when I use other implements to do my joining stitches, rather than the magic threads. So one final one to add. Okay, and no magic thread on this one. So I'm going to start working this, and I'm going to leave all the temporary pins in till the halfway point. So just be really careful of those magic threads so that you don't get anything caught on them. So the worker is going to work through 2 pairs for me in cloth stitch, because I'm doing 2 pairs at the edge. Oops, I've got a loop that's come down. Let's put that to the back of the pillow. Doesn't matter for now if it gets caught around pins. Twist once, and then I bring in 1 pair. Put the pin in, and it's that top pinhole which is quite difficult and quite tight, that one. So through 1, twist. So I'm going to carry on working my fan. I'll speed up the video, but I won't talk, and I'm going to get to the halfway point. So I'm now at the halfway point, and I'm now going to start taking out the temporary pins that I put in, starting over this side. And the trick is remembering what are pins that are active in the fan and pins that aren't. So the first passive started on the top pin of the fan there. So that passive is fine. We don't need to do anything with that. The one that's here is on a temporary pin, and that's that extra corner pin that we had, which is that pin there. So I'm going to take that out and very carefully pull the work down. Don't worry about your magic threads. So I'm then going to go down the diagonal. So pull one out, pull it down, and you need to pull one bobbin down, not two. I'm going to leave the last two in there. One more. So the thing that you are most likely to forget with this is that to take those pins out. So I'm going to complete the rest of the fan off video, and then I will take the rest of the pins out on video, sorry, the rest of the temporary pins out on video, and work this section. So I've now got to the end of that fan. First thing I'm going to do is remember to take out those temporary pins. So it's two. One there, ease it down. Second one, ease it down. And I am being very gentle when I do those. So as I said when looking at the working diagram, the ground that we're going to do is half stitch, pin, half stitch. That has one twist on it. So all the pairs coming out of the fan need to match what's going to be on the ground. Okay, so the first pin we're going to put in has got this square around it, and that's just a reminder that that's a joining pinhole. So we're going to put 4 extra twists on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put the pin in. Okay, and then I can work along that diagonal. I've got the twist of half stitch, pin, half stitch, and just carry on that down that diagonal. So something that you've seen me do a number of times in the past. Okay, so when we get back to the top of the diagonal, it's got 1 on, we need another 4 twists. So 1, 2, 3, 4, pin in. And what you find by putting the twists on before the pin is that they do go around the pin. If you put them on after, they'd all want to cling after the pin. So carry on. Half stitch, pin, half stitch, half, pin. So it's got 1 on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, pin. So carry on down the next diagonal. Another edge one, so 1 already. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pin in. And then there's 2 more to go. So there's that one, which is half pin half. And then we've got another edge stitch. So that's got 1 on it already. We needed the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're looking down on my pillow. So you can't necessarily see the next bit, but all of these pins are absolutely straight up. I'm not sloping any pins backwards or not trying to. I'm not sloping any pins outwards at either side. Later on, I am going to have to push all of these pins into the pillow. That is much easier when they're straight. If you've got pins at different angles, then you're going to get pins potentially clashing underneath. But actually, at this point, my lace isn't rising up the pillow. And that tends to be one of the reasons why people do slope outwards. It starts rising just with a pin or an awl. Give it a gentle push down, and don't be doing that to your work all the time to look for the pinholes. You should be able to separate your pairs and effectively stroke up your pricking to do that. So I'm going to carry on working this. I'm going to stop when I get to the end of the last fan on this side. And then I'll talk to you about the extra pin that's there. So I've got one fan to go. And just now is probably the best time to explain what I'm going to do at the bottom before I actually do it. Well, you can actually see it with no pins around it. So I'm going to work that fan to that bottom pin as normal. Then to jump to the next fan, what we've got is we've got an intermediate pin. Okay, so we'll treat that in the same way as all the others. So we will leave one pair out at every pin, which means we don't work through everything at that point. So you might just work through the outer passive. I've got 2 outer passives, so I'll work through 2 and put the pin in. And at that point then, I will turn my pillow. So let me finish this fan and let me look at moving from one fan to the next. Okay, so I'm at the bottom of the fan. The first thing I need to do is all these passives that are going to travel from one fan to the next. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All need one twist on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I'm then going to turn my pillow slightly, and I'm going to work towards the extra pinhole that was there. So through both the foot side passives, because I've got 2 of them. You might only have 1. Put the pin in, and then come back. Okay, twist twice at the edge and put the pin in. Just didn't want to go in. Okay, and then I'm going to turn my pillow. Okay, so I'm now going to work this fan in the direction that I've got here. Now, for now, we are okay with all those pins. First thing I need to do is to check that none of my pairs have jumped. So that's jumped, that's got multiple twists on it, that's got 1. Okay, so I'm now going to work that fan. So I'll work that off camera and then just explain to you about the next bit. Okay, so I'm at the end of the fan. I've just got the little extra pinhole to work, so let me work that now. So you can see I've left a passive out. Come back. And now we're going to hit a problem. So we're ready to work this next fan, but we can't get our bobbins in there to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of these little tools, which is a pin pusher. So it has a ridge at the end, and this actually is a push me, pull you. So you can put a pin down. Let me quickly pull one up with my nail. So just put it over the top and push it down. But it's also got a little lip on it. So what you can actually do is you can use it to pull pins out as well. There are alternatives to both. If you're going to use the alternative that's like a little fork, I don't have one of those. Just be very careful on it, make sure it's smooth, and that it doesn't mess up your lace. So what I need to do is to push all of these pins down. So let me start doing that. You might find the odd one that wants to bend as you do it. So don't put the last fan down, but everything else around it you can. So you know, you need to take your time. Oops, the one bent there. Doing this. Okay, I sometimes then go in with the other end and just give them a push down afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video at this point, push all the pins down, and then come back and I'll have worked this fan then, because that's just a repetition of what we've done already, remembering that as I transition between the two fans I need to have one twist on all the pairs that are travelling across. And I'll talk to you about this ground, because we work the ground very slightly differently coming back. So I'm now ready to start joining one side to the other. So all the way along this central pin line, we are going to be joining our work together. You'll notice that this side's shiny. What I've done is I'm finding pins catch. Now there are various things that you can do. You can have a horseshoe on your pillow that lifts the threads up. But personally, I don't like those because I don't like the threads being lifted. So I'm just using a plastic pocket, which is sort of an old Honiton technique that they used to use. They used to use what they called sliders, which is a piece of plastic. It's a bit stronger than this, but works just the same way. So on my pillow, I've got currently 4 different implements that I can use to help me attach. So if you can, a crochet hook, nice and easy. I have a 0.5 and a 0.6, I think, in my collection. So 0.5 is fine for the thread that we're using. The next tool that I've got is a needle vise with a beading needle in the other end, and that beading needle, the eye is out on it rather than the point. This one's a new tool that I've got. Same principle, but it's a bent needle. It's a curved needle, and actually, although you have to handle it very slightly differently in the holes that you're going to use, and we are doing the easiest type of holes to start off with. It's not going to get stuck under work in the same way that some of the others do. Hopefully that'll become a bit clearer when we come all the way around. And finally, we've got an eyes out. In my classes, these are always known as Busy Susans. Officially, they're known as Lazy Susans, but I won't have Lazy Susans mentioned in my class. So it's a Busy Susan in my class. So I'm going to demonstrate with the crochet hook and also with the eyes out. So I've got the needle threaded on it. The others work in exactly the same way. The beading needle almost certainly will need finer thread than you're using in your work, but all of them work in the same way. So let me move those out of the way. Okay, so I might do some working slightly out of order. So let's get this back to where it should be. Oops. So after the fan, it will have no twists on it. So we'd normally put one twist on all the workers, but we've been putting some extras on. If you think about those, we put 4 extra. So let's put an extra 2 on that. Okay. So half before and half after is the theory that I'm going for. I'm going to lift that pin up. You see how easy it came out with the pin lifter? Take the pin out. So I'm going to take my crochet hook. Now the advantage of, these are clover crochet hooks. The advantage of this crochet hook is that I know quite easily which side my hook is on. You'll find it very difficult to see in the video, but this side is the side that has the hook. If I hold it that way, you may just about see it. So if I go under, and I have pressed more pins down around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of those threads. So I'm going to twist my crochet hook round so that the hook is underneath, and then I'm going to pull backwards. Okay, so I'm pulling that loop all the way through. I've not lost hold of that loop. I'm going to put the head of the other bobbin through and then follow through with the rest of the bobbin. Okay, I'm going to put a pin back in the hole. And on my case, I'm going to twist until it looks like I've got the right number of twists. Sometimes it feels that you might need extra twists on it, sometimes it doesn't. So let me work the next hole. So half stitch, pin, half stitch. And rather than carrying on that diagonal, so I can do another sewing, I'm going to do one of those now. So pin lifter, lift up the pin, take out the pin. Put another 2 twists on. 2 might be too much, but sometimes the twists undo. So once again, through, turn, over the first thread, and then pull back. Now the reason I pushed pins down was so that I had plenty of room. So keeping hold of the loop, I'm then going to put the other bobbin through the top of the loop and pull back. Okay, pin in. Okay, so I've done with it 2 with the crochet hook. I'm now going to do one with one of the eyes out options. So I'll use my Busy Susan rather than Lazy Susan. And this is a bit more awkward, but not everybody can use a crochet hook. So lots of lace makers do use these. So I'm going to put some more twists on because we need some more on. I'm also going to push some of these pins down, but I'm not going to push them right the way down. Just going to be about giving myself a bit more space to work. If you push them down too early, you trap the threads. So my Busy Susan has a long length of thread on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pin out of the hole. I'm then going to put the eye through. Okay, so you need a couple of hands sometimes to do this. So I'm now going to pull that back to give myself a bigger loop, and then I'm going to put 1 bobbin head first through. Okay, I'm then going to grab hold of the tool and the other end of the thread, and I'm going to pull back. So what that's done is it's given me a loop. I'm going to take it out. So I've got that on my finger, and I'm going to pass the other bobbin through. Taking it away at that point is really just about trying to make sure you haven't got too many threads around. So that's me using an eyes out. Let me do one more for you so that you've seen it twice. Okay, so next one, twist 2 more times, lift the pin up, take my my tool, whichever one I'm using, through the hole, So you can see it's nice and through the hole, but I've got loads of space here to do this. And then I'm going to make that loop bigger by pulling back and put one bobbin head first through the loop. So I'm doing exactly what I did the last time. I'm going to hold both ends of the thread and then pull back. Okay, so I've transferred the loop through without letting it twist. I'm going to put my finger in, take the thread out, swap fingers just to hold it, holding it tight so it doesn't collapse, and put the other bobbin through. Must be the other bobbin, and then pull. Now what can happen is what's happened here. I've got threads caught around pins. If you noticed, I didn't push those down, so they're a bit higher in what I'm doing. So let me just show you, not to use, but the other tools. So let me show you the beading needle first. So the beading needle works in exactly the same way. The advantage is a beading needle is so much more flexible. So you can be at different angles to use it with the work. So that's my preference is the crochet hook. Then the eyes out, the Busy Susan version that I've just used is probably my least favourite version to use. I'd normally then go for a beading needle, because if I need to, I can get underneath it and lift it and things like that. Okay, so the curved needle needs a bit more work to it, because you've got to use it at a very slightly different angle to the others. So what you can see is as I put it through and move it around, oops, that needle instantly pops up. So it's not getting in the way of other work. I can control it a bit easier. It's going to be a bit easier to pull a loop back. So I'm preferring that to the flat one that I used at the start, because it has got a bit more flexibility. I brought that at the Concentrum. So I also saw it at a lace fair in Belgium. So it's certainly used out there. Whether we'll see more of them in the UK, I don't know. Okay, so we are now ready to carry on with our work in exactly the same way. At the bottom, when we turn here, we're going to do exactly the same thing. But I am going to come back to the video just before I work that, because I want to sort these threads that are there out first. So I'm now about to work the last fan. But before I do, I'm just going to move all of these threads out the way and check that they're okay. So I'm going to very carefully, one by one, find the ends of them. And that probably involves pulling up some threads as well. So I need to turn them around effectively so that they're not in my working path. So that one is for that pin. So that's fine. Let's leave that side of it. That one's fine. That one's fine. That's got nothing on it, because I did them alternate pins. So that almost certainly is the next pin. Yeah, not over anything. That's fine. Okay, so that one now can go back down. That one's got nothing around it. That one's fine. But we've got quite a few at this pin here. So there's multiple threads there. So for now, let's just move them all over to this side. When we come to sew and join, I'll probably do those first to make sure that we get them right. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the video when I've got everything in place, having worked that last fan. So you can now see that I've got all the pins, the working pins done on my pillow. Obviously I've got a load of extra threads hanging around. That's one of the reasons I try and avoid using magic threads personally, because they do get caught in everything and cause a bit of confusion at times. So let's move them under there for now. That one's going the wrong way. So the first pin that I'm going to do doesn't have a magic thread. I tend to, let me just twist those a bit actually, move them that way. I tend to start at the inside and go to the outside, just because there's a bit of space towards the outside. So I'm going to sew and then I'm going to pin in order so that I've got them to come back. So I'm not going to be doing any knotting as I'm doing these. Anything coming across would need one twist. When I'm sewing, I always put on an extra twist. You just never know whether your sewing is going to add a twist, take a twist off, or what. So I'm going to go through that hole. That's there. So it is the pinhole. Being careful not to actually go down the hole itself. Then, just like we did at the sides, I'm going to grab, and I put my thread the other way, I put my crochet hook the other way, and then I pull back. Which normally works. Okay, I split the thread there. So if you split the thread, stop as soon as you can and go for the other thread that's there. So 2 twists, turn over very carefully, got it that time, pull through. So other bobbin through the loop, just like we've been doing on the sewings up the middle. Okay, so I'm then going to make sure it's not caught on any pins, and then pull back so I can see where the pinhole is and to put that back in the pinhole. And I'm going to leave the pair so that it's on top of the pin, because it's where it would naturally go if we were working. So let me pin that out of the way, and I'm going to put a physical pin in it so that I can see it. Sorry, you can't see that. Get out of it. So yeah, you can see I've put a physical pin in that to hold it. Let me stay at that, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing as I do it. Okay, so next one along needs 2 twists. But the next one along, I think, had a, yes, it's got a magic thread with it. So let's get all the other magic threads out the way. We're going to take the pin, then we're going to leave the pin in, and we're going to work out where the bits of the magic thread are. Ah, okay. So it has untwisted quite well. Let's just get the next magic thread out of the way. So what I can do, this is actually not in the hole itself, it's on the pair that's being added. So being very careful, I'm going to open that up. I'm going to put one bobbin down through it. Okay. And then I'm going to pull back on both ends of the thread. You must hold both ends. Right, it's a quarter round a pin. That's it. So that's the equivalent of doing my sewing. Then I'm going to make sure there's no twists on the loop, which there aren't. Put the other bobbin of the pair through. Going to lift the pin up just so that it's clear, and then pin this one out of the way. You see, I'm not doing any knotting, and that's just in case anything has gone wrong as I've been working. So the next one, twist twice. There's no magic thread. So remember, I put them in every other one as I was working this. Let me put those from before down. Okay, so I'm going to use my crochet hook again. So into the hole, grab one of the threads, turn over and pull back. Okay, that one was much easier than the first one. Other bobbin through the loop, head first and pull. Okay, pull back so I can see the loop, put the pin in and then put the pin in the previous pinhole. Okay, and then we finish with that one. So let's do that to it and pin it out of the way. Okay, so the next one, twist it twice. There should be a magic thread for it. So let's get my magic thread pile out. Yes, there is. So let's get everything else tucked in. Okay, and just like we did before, this is before the pinhole, so we don't need to do anything with it. But this magic thread has gone in on itself. So I've just untwisted, it's not going through itself, that's fine. So with that loop, one bobbin of the two through, both ends, pull back. Sometimes it is quite hard to pull back. You heard a click there as I was doing it, hopefully. That's when it's actually come through the hole. Other bobbin through, head first, pull back. Let's just lift it up for the pin just a little bit. Okay, so that one's sewn as well. Okay, so pinned. So next one along isn't going to have a magic thread on it. So let's move those out of the way. So let's lift the next pin up. Twist twice. Crochet hook in the hole that's there, over one of the two threads so that I can grab it, being careful not to get the bundle of magic threads in. And pull back. That's it. Sometimes you do have to manoeuvre it a little bit to be able to get in there. Pull to the back of the pillow, you can see the pinhole and the loop. And then let's pin that as well. Okay, so we're left now with 3 pairs, and all of those 3 pairs are around this, the magic threads here. So I'm hoping I don't lose that magic thread end because it's very, very small. So I'm going to take the pin that's in the top pin out and see whether I can then sort my magic threads out. So let's see what I've got. If the edge one separates that easily, then I will, yes. So that's the one at the that's got a passive in it. So let me just untwist the magic thread so you can see they do get caught up in each other. So that is the first of the, well, the only passives, the other 2 were at the pin. So, oops, sorry, let me go out a bit more so that I can show that you can see what I'm doing. So there's the loop, bobbin through, and pull back both of the magic threads to transfer it through. Heard it click and it's pulled through. Okay, so then making sure I've got the correct bobbin, I'm going to put the other bobbin of that pair through, which is that one. Okay, this time there's no pin to put back in the hole. Okay, so we've now got 2 left. So hopefully they're going to separate quite nicely. So there's one either side of the top pin. So if I can get the first one in, then what I can do is I can put the pin back in. So let me find what happens when I pull that. It's that one. And that one. So I'm just checking whether they're intertwined, and they don't seem to be. Just need to be careful with that other one to check it doesn't undo. So I'm going to do my sewing again. So first one through and pull back. Grab hold of that other bobbin of the pair through. So as that came, that one, the bobbin itself came off. Right, so when I've done that, what's actually appeared is the pinhole that was originally there. So I've reused that. I'm going to twist twice, and now I'm going to use the last magic thread to sew the last one in. So one bobbin through, pull back, I've got the loop, get rid of the magic thread, put the other bobbin of the pair through. Okay, so that's caught on some pins. Right, so that is everything now sewn. So what you do with this now really depends on partly what you're happy with doing, and also whether this is going to be mounted. So this is going to be mounted. All you need to do is to knot all the ends, leave your ends on your thread long when you cut them off, and one by one you can stab them through the material backing. If you're not doing that, then I'm going to demonstrate what I do here. So I would get everything in order. So that one's there. There was a loose thread on its own there. That's fine. Let me put an extra thread on the end of that bobbin just for a minute. So it's run out of thread, so there wasn't enough to hold it on the bobbin, but by attaching an end to it, I can wind a bobbin on it, which is what I'm just going to do now. So just bear with me while I do that. Okay, so let's just move that so there's less to catch on. So next one along. Next one. So I'm being very careful to leave these in order as I'm doing this. Okay. So keeping my bobbins tight and taut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a single knot with each pair along the row. So single knot, put it down in exactly the same place. Single knot, back in exactly the same place. Single knot, back in the same place. Single knot. And what I'm going to be using here is a method that I was shown a long time ago. It's a bit like the Bruges tie method when you eventually get to that. Okay, so end pair, I'm first of all going to do a reef knot. 1, 2. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to knot along the way. So, single knot. Do not to get caught on the pins like I did there. Then a reef knot. And when I've done this reef knot, I'm then going to swap my bobbins. Because what I'm getting is I'm getting a bobbin that actually is travelling along the diagonal. With a single knot, it automatically does it. With a reef knot, we have to force it. So single, double and swap. So single, double and swap. Single, double and swap. Single, double and swap. Single, double and swap. Single, double. And rather than just leave that at that end, what I then do is I go to the last 2 bobbins that I've not got hold of, which is these 2. Put that between it and tie a reef knot over it, which just keeps the little tail away from the corner. So that now is my insertion all complete, and I can I'll be able to cut my ends off. So I've cut them long at this point. I will ultimately just be able to cut them off the work, but you're better and safer to do that off the pillow rather than on the pillow. I've left a good length of thread on there so that there's something to hang onto. But that knotting, you can get quite close to the pins. Just watch you don't snip any knots as you're doing it. I'm going to leave this 24 hours before I take any of the pins out, and then my lace is done. So I'm now going to do the final bit of this piece of lace, and the lace is now off the pillow, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ribbon through the centre of it. To do that, what I'm going to do, I've already cut my bit of ribbon, which is 3mm ribbon, and I'm going to put it through a tapestry needle. So this is a number 26 tapestry needle. So let's just pull that through, and just because the end's got a bit mangled as I'm doing that, let me cut that end off at an angle. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is to take my lace, and I'm going to go under and over the joining pieces. So let me pull through that first batch. When I've pulled through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that it's there's no kinks in the ribbon, no twists in the ribbon. So let me carry on. You can see I'm just going under and over each one. after I've come through. Right, it wasn't twisted. So let's carry on. It just means that it adds a bit of interest to the centre, and where the join doesn't quite match the lace, that will then be hidden. Okay, so a couple of untwists and another one there. Okay, so it's still lying flat. So you want a ribbon that's a bit of a contrast. I wouldn't go much, I don't think you could get much bigger than 3mm in the gap. 2 might be a bit too small. Okay, nearly there. Okay, so I've actually fed this through from the correct side. So that's the side without the knots on it. I now obviously need to tidy off my my ribbon ends. So this one is going to go through to the other side. Nice and easy. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to pull it back a bit because it's a bit too much ribbon, more than I need there. So let me just be fair with what I've got. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards a bit. So let me go backwards to that point there. Get out any kinks again in the ribbon. It looks like it's got one more kink in it. Okay. And then I would do the same on the other side. What I would then do, and I'm not going to do this bit on camera, I would make it so it's long enough to go to the next one. And I would burn the ends of the thread or heat the ends of the thread, the ends of the ribbon very slightly to secure it. Then fold it under and up. This one on this side, I'll go back one probably and do something. Oh, actually, no, I won't go back one. I'll just bend it back and do something very similar. It won't be fully fixed at one end, but when that's finished, that will give us a nice little, oh, got a kink in the ribbon, I've just spotted. So let's untwist that. So you can see you've got to be really careful. You think it's not there and then it is there, but before you finish it off, you need to make sure that it's right. So I'll do that and then just come back with one final image of the finished piece. So here is my finished insertion. You can see the ribbon has covered the join quite well. Your eye isn't drawn to any lines that aren't out now. And that's the right side. And on the wrong side, I've folded the little ends of thread underneath. At one end, I had to go back half a stitch just to make sure that I could do that. So rather than going 2, which is effectively the stitch, I just went over 1 so that I could then turn the end to the reverse. So that's your completed insertion bookmark. My knots you can see hidden along that side.